How we doing, everybody?
Good.
You excited?
Yes.
This is actually a really sad day.
Yes.
This is the last 213 lecture of spring 2015. The very last one. Sad. Okay, so this is actually a really short lecture. My goal is just to make sure that we're sort of synced up. So we have this event coming up next week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. What is it?
Final.
The final. If you're waiting for the Friday slots, there are no Friday slots.
Good.
So don't think Friday slots are going to appear. If you don't sign up for a slot, then you won't have a slot. This is the same thing as if you miss a regular exam, right? There's no extra special, but I forgot, right? No, you really need to sign up for a slot. You can't just show up randomly. Even if you see a seat open, you can't show up randomly. The TAs are not allowed to let you take the exam if you're more than 10 minutes early or a half an hour late. Okay? Even if the seat is open. Because even with the seat open, somebody else is scheduled to replace it to come and take that seat very soon. Does that make sense? Because people sign up. So you're welcome to move to any available slot. But if a slot is not available, that's because the computer system has looked at a window and has determined that somebody else's exam can run forward into that time, or somebody else is going to walk in before you'll have time to finish. Okay? It has logic there that computes a window around the time slots, right? A conflict thing. So you really can't just show up. That does not work. So what happens if you totally miss your exam? Try to sign up for another slot. It might be like 10 in the morning, but that's like not terrible. What happens if you miss your slot on Friday? Well, the same thing that happens if you miss your normal exam and it's on a Friday. It's like not good, right? It's not good. It doesn't do good things for one's, mental status, average in the course, so on. What happens if you get hit by a tractor trailer and are hospitalized and can't make it to the exam? Well, we obviously are very sorry and hope that doesn't happen, but that might be cause for an exam to be rescheduled, like normal, right? Nothing is at all magical about it being an online self-scheduled exam. The exam was traditionally taken, right, within a 3-hour exam slot. The exam has gotten no longer since it was a regular exam. The question formats have not changed since it was an online exam. In fact, about half of the questions are old questions from when it was an on-paper exam. About half of them are new. But they're all the same format of questions, right? Nothing has changed. So traditionally speaking, this exam was given in a 3-hour time slot, and people finished anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. We find that we give people all the time in the universe, basically. Not really, but basically. They tend to take a little more time than they used to when time was constrained, or more constrained. They tend to take a little closer to 3 hours. So we give you up to 6 hours for the exam. Why do we do that? There are various people that have double time accommodations, and the feeling is that if the exam used to be given in a 3-hour time slot and double time accommodations mean 6 hours, we're good. If you're somebody that needs more than 6 hours, then you need to talk to us. We need to obviously schedule some separate sitting of the exam. What happens if you're somebody who needs more than 3 hours and you don't happen to have an accommodation letter? Well, that's okay too. I guess you happen to, for your own reasons, need more time. The goal isn't to make it a time test, right? We don't believe that we're measuring time. We believe that we're measuring what you understand about the material. So if it takes you longer to work through the exam, I guess with respect to someone else, you just needed more time to do that, and that's fine. I don't have to care why. So we really do believe that most people should be able to finish the exam comfortably in less than 3 hours. Statistics from prior years have sort of borne that out. When it was given on paper, people, finished up in about 2 hours. For whatever reason, I think when you're more comfortable in a lab setting, people just tend to camp out a little longer. I guess hitting the submit button is really hard, right? It's also, I think, a little different when people are coming and people are going at different times, as opposed to when the whole room starts to expire at the same time, right? Like, you're in a room, and you get to that point where everybody's flipping through the exam, feels like they're done. The first person goes and says, I'm done. The second person turns in. You're like, okay, everybody else is turning in. Let me just leave, right? Whereas on the online exam system, when people come and go at different times, there's never a time when everybody leaves. And so I think you don't get that psychological push out that you used to get, which is probably for the better. So can we actually imagine what somebody is going to do taking the exam for 6 hours? No. I cannot imagine how you could possibly spend 6 hours in that room, but I don't have to. If you want it, it's yours. So, for purposes of exam scheduling, I figured that the average person is going to take 4 hours to take the exam. Why do I do that? Because that's way more than I think they'll actually take. And that makes sure that no one's going to show up to take an exam and not have a seat. If that makes sense. That would be unfortunate if you showed up for a 4 o'clock exam, and because I misestimated, the seat wasn't available for an hour. So that's how the system works. If you see time slots disappear, that's not a bug. They've actually disappeared. Right? They're full. People took them. What to say? For the exam, feel free to bring food. Feel free to bring drinks. That's fine. The goal is for you to be comfortable. Feel free to bring your own scratch paper, or we'll have some. Feel free to bring the standard note sheet if you'd like it, like one, make it out yourself, copy somebody else's, we don't care. We don't think the scratch sheets help. We just don't think there's that much memorization. We try our best to embed inside the question any facts that the question will require. So we try to embed in the question, what if we were asking about alignment, what alignment policy you should use or something like that. So you don't have to memorize that type of thing. We try not to use any weird instructions if we can avoid it. There's one of the assembly questions that has some weird instructions, but when you look at what the code does, the instruction can only possibly mean one thing, so we didn't worry too much about it. But in general, if there's something weird it matters, we explain it. So we don't think there's anything on a note sheet that would be important. We think if you come without a note sheet, you'll be just fine. But some people tend to like them, and so if you want one as a security blanket, feel free. But remember, you can't have old exam problems or textbook problems or the solutions thereto on your note sheet. Okay, why? Because, as I said, about half the exam question pool are old questions. And it would put people at a significant disadvantage if some people had half of the answers written out on sheets because they managed to get 50 questions micro printed. That's just not the goal of life. Yes?
Are we allowed to have code we've written ourselves?
You could have code you've written yourself so long as it is not the solution to an old exam or textbook question.
A homework question?
When you say a homework question, we didn't give homework.
A lab question?
A lab is fine. If you want to have part of a solution to a lab, then feel free.
Okay.
We do collect all the paper that you come with, that you have accessible to you, I should say. We're not going to go through your backpack. But all the paper that you have accessible to you during the exam, we do collect that at the end. So if you bring a note sheet, we're going to collect it. Don't give us your only copy of the note sheet. If you produce the most beautiful possible note sheet of all time, please make a copy for yourself because we're going to keep the one you bring. If there are really beautiful ones, I give them to Dave O'Halloran. He's got a collection of 2 or 3 he keeps on his desk just because they're so beautiful, they're colored, and they're really nice. I think there's one he wants to get blown up to a poster. It's like all 213 on a page. And so know that we're gonna collect whatever you have. Why do we do that? Well, we introduce new questions into the pool semester after semester after semester. So the pool gets larger and larger. Occasionally, if we find that a question is becoming farther from the mean of the pool, we'll throw it away. But we don't regenerate the entire pool every semester. And in order to make sure that there's no advantage or minimal advantage to memorizing questions, we try to reduce the number of questions that leak out, right? Because if we would publish the entire pool at this point, there would be someone who has a really good memory that would just spend 3 weeks memorizing questions. That would start in high school before they got to CMU with the anticipation of getting here, memorizing the solution to 213 exam questions. And that's just not a useful undertaking, right? Because they would bet that, the pool has 100 questions in it, and we introduce 3 new questions a semester or something, and so, there's a 97% chance that, there are people who will do that, and we just don't want there to be any advantage to that. So we try to reduce the rate at which the questions leak out, especially during the exam, like from Monday to Friday. Right? Because we don't add very many questions mid-exam, right? And so we don't want questions from Monday getting handed to the Tuesday takers, getting handed to the Wednesday takers, getting handed to the Thursday takers, because then people would spend like most of exam week memorizing questions. It's stupid, right? So we introduce most of our new questions between semesters, and we try to keep the dissemination of information down during semesters. And then once the semester's over, you can look at your exam, because then we have a chance to rejuice the pool before the next time we use it. So that's the reason we do that. It's not to prevent leakage, which we can't do. It's to slow the rate of leakage to make sure that the rate of leakage doesn't justify people memorizing instead of studying. Other than that, it works basically like it did on the mid-semester exam. Hopefully, you guys will have no trouble with it. Staff's meeting all weekend to give it a nice little test run for you. So if you think, a few hours of exam next week is bad, imagine being a staff member and having the rerun all weekend. It's like a nightmare. No, it's back! Have to do another exam. Being in a little room, getting fed pizza, having to do 213 exam after 213 after exam after 213 exam. It's either a cause for celebration or something very feared, depending on who you are. You can really tell the best, you can really tell the TAs of all TAs, right? Because some of them show up, yes, 213 exams! And maintain that enthusiasm like as they eat 213 exams for dinner for 2 days, right? Just, doing exam after exam after exam after exam at like an hour and a half, an hour an exam, 45 minutes an exam can kill like, 20 exams in a weekend. And then you can see the others who are like, oh, an exam. Like, I hated these when I was a student. I like the projects, right? And take 3 hours for an exam and, take a lot of bathroom breaks and drink more fluids, they can take more bathroom breaks. It goes both ways. You guys don't need to drink fluids, take bathroom breaks. We don't count. We don't measure inputs and outputs. We only do that for TAs. And so, I don't know what else to say to wrap up the semester other than, the auto lab will grade the proxy. Auto exam will grade the exam. Then the faculty and some of the staff will get together and make sure everything looks normal. Make sure we didn't have any bad questions in the exam or anything like that, and adjust if we have to, and assign grades from there. Do you guys have any questions? There is a review session, I think, on Saturday. Let me see when. Saturday, May 2nd, which is Saturday, in Rashid, which is the big auditorium in Gates. It's technically 4101, but just it's Rashid, beginning at 6 p.m. Review sessions for a class this size, to be honest, I don't know how effective they are. Basically what happens is the TAs will go through and do an exam or two in front of you, and you get to ask questions. Sometimes the TAs publish the questions in advance so that you can show up with some questions or confusions if you have them. Check, you might get an email from the TAs in advance saying, here are the questions we're going to go through. Depends on what the TA who's leading it happens to prefer. I don't know. I mean, I was never a fan as a student of review sessions. I felt it's just really hard to learn an entire semester in 3 hours. And so I found my better use of time was to focus on the things that I knew were challenging for me and not focus on the things that I knew could me. That is to say, do some practice exams, figure out what you're good at, figure out what you're not good at, drive down and do more problems in those areas where you need the most practice, and get help from TAs specifically on the questions where you need the help. The mailing list will be alive and people will be able to help you. In some classes where I just didn't know what to expect on the final exam, then review sessions played a good role because they were an opportunity for the course staff and faculty to put your instant messenger away. It was a good opportunity for the course staff and the faculty to tell me what the expectations were, like these are the things that we're going to be testing. But do you need us to tell you that for this class? No, right? There are I've been teaching here since 99. I think there are exams going back to 98 on the web or something like that. There are plenty of exams. Have they changed? No. Right? They've been basically the same. And so your expectations should be fairly finely honed. Do we have any surprises in for you? Hopefully not. Right? We're not trying to surprise you. If you can, do the practice exams and get A's, you can do the final exam and get A's, I think. And that's the way we'd like it. And if you do the practice exams and get B's and always have trouble with question X, you know what? That might be the way it is, and that's okay too. I'm not going to tell you in every single class that I ever took in my entire lifetime, I mastered every single subtopic with equal depth and grace. It's just not the way it was. And so our goal is to let you know what the expectations are, what types of things we intend to ask, and to let you tackle those and master them as best as you're willing and able. And so that's, I think, what we got. What do you guys think? Any questions I can answer about how we're going to wrap up? All right, the last detail about where to go to the exam. I totally forgot that. If you don't hear anything from us, go to 5208, GHC 5208. But actually look for an email from us about an hour before your exam, and we generally tell you which room to go to. Why don't we know exactly what room to go to in advance? Because sometimes a machine dies in a room or whatever. Sometimes there are two people in a room that happen to take a way long time, and so there are more seats in a different room. And so what we do is we just look at it about an hour beforehand, take our best guess, and then email you to let you know where to go. So we usually let an hour look ahead because we find we can do that accurately. But if we get a day ahead, we just don't know where we're going to have a couple of people stuck. Yeah? It's literally, the question was, is there a certain percentage of questions for each topic and so on? The answer is it's going to be exactly like it's been in every prior semester, with one question in each of those core topic areas. And the questions will be weighted, I think, equally, unless we have reason to do otherwise. I'm not going to guarantee, super triple promise that, but unless there's something that causes us to do otherwise, the questions will be weighted equally. And again, we're not going to introduce any new topic areas. It's going to be just the traditional topics. So if you look at, I don't know if you've done any of the exams already. Hopefully you have, but if not, I would take the most recent 2 or 3 semesters worth of finals and start there. If you see something that's really weird that looks totally different, then look back a couple more semesters and see if you've seen that, because we've tried to eliminate any of the flyers from the pool. Sometimes faculty threw out questions just let's see how this goes. And we've tried not to do that. We've tried to keep the questions sort of in center. When I first developed the exam, there was actually an experimental question. And the idea was to throw these random ideas into the experimental pool and have it not count. That way we could get a feel for how people did. We did that one semester and haven't done that since. I think we should get back to it because it was fun. But occasionally it caused people to freak out. And that was fun too. Well, I'm sorry. That was distressing. Any other questions? All right. Have a great day. Let me know if I can do anything. Great to see you all. I've had fun. I hope you did too. Take care, everyone. Indeed.